Your next presenter is Iris Caldwell. Iris is Program Manager, Sustainable Landscapes at the Energy Resource Center at the University of Illinois, Chicago. She facilitates the Right-of-Way as Habitat Working Group, Illinois' Monarch Project, and other efforts to engage industries in pollinator habitat conservation. Over the past 3 years, she has coordinated the development of the first nationwide voluntary conservation agreement for the monarch butterfly on energy and transportation lands. Here is Iris Caldwell.
Hello, good evening. Happy to be here with you today to talk about the Rights of Way as Habitat Working Group, which is an initiative that we've been facilitating at the University of Illinois, Chicago for the last 5 years. And really what we're doing with this program is looking at opportunities to create habitat on energy and transportation lands. And this effort really began about 5 years ago when the White House had issued their national strategy on pollinator health. And we were looking at the different opportunities that were potentially available on different types of landscapes. And what became very clear to us, looking at the variety of landscapes across the country, that there was this potentially untapped potential of energy and transportation landscapes, particularly the rights of way, the linear corridors that connect all sorts of energy and transportation facilities, and themselves represent these very extensive networks across the country, that these rights of way could serve potentially as a new type of conservation landscape. And of course, we're talking about energy, electric, gas, pipelines, railroads, highways, and these landscapes represent millions of acres of potential conservation lands or opportunities for creating habitat across the country. And in doing so, they're connecting a variety of other natural areas as they also connect our cities and homes with the energy and transportation needs that we have. So as we continue to dive into this discussion, what became very clear to us as well was that we were looking at a system of lands that have a long history of vegetation management activities. And those vegetation management activities have really evolved over time. And what we find increasingly being used today is a suite of practices called integrative vegetation management, which really promote what is effectively early successional habitat. So low growing vegetation that meets the safety and operational needs of the utility and transportation infrastructure. So in many ways, this again is ideal for the types of pollinator habitats that we need to add to the landscape. The big question, however, is how can we effectively continue to conserve at-risk species on these types of lands, while at the same time maintaining the very necessary operational flexibility that energy companies and departments of transportation and others need in order to maintain their infrastructure. So in order to really facilitate those conversations, we 5 years ago created this Rights of Way as Habitat Working Group, which really was intended to serve as a forum for energy companies, railroads, departments of transportation to come together, share what they are doing and how in terms of managing vegetation, creating habitat on their lands, and then to really inform those conversations with participation from academia, federal and state government agencies, nonprofits, so we can really have an open, constructive discussion around how we can best manage for habitat on these types of landscapes. So over the past 5 years, the working group has grown to a pretty large network of over 400 organizations across the US and Canada, with peaking interest from Europe as well. And what is, again, really, I think, unique about this network is the fact that we're breaking through silos, both within organizations, bringing together environmental teams and vegetation management teams, as well as breaking across silos across industries. And it's very unusual for there to be a forum like this where a energy sector vegetation manager can talk to a utility, or sorry, a transportation or DOT vegetation manager, and have at the same table someone from the Fish and Wildlife Service talking about opportunities to promote these types of practices. So again, that's really what we have tried to encourage through the Rights Way Working Group. One of the projects that has been an important one for the last couple of years has been really, again, trying to get at that question of how can we ensure operational flexibility. As I'm sure we're all aware, the monarch butterfly has been considered for listing as a threatened or endangered species. And so there was a lot of concern from our energy and transportation stakeholders that a potential listing decision could really impact their ability to invest in conservation for the monarch butterfly. And so as a collaboration, we decided to develop a candidate conservation agreement with assurances, or CCAA, which is a voluntary pre-listing tool that the Fish and Wildlife Service provides. And through the CCAA mechanism, partners, so landowners, land managers, commit to proactive conservation actions for an at-risk species, in this case, the monarch butterfly. And in exchange for that proactive conservation commitment, the entities receive regulatory certainty that in the event of a potential endangered species listing, no further restrictions or requirements would be mandated upon them. So again, this really maximizes that operational flexibility in the event of a potential listing. It also provides both immediate and long-term benefits to the monarch butterfly in this case. And over the course of the agreement, which was finalized earlier this year, we aim to create more than 2 million acres of monarch butterfly habitat over the next 25 years. So again, this project would not have been possible without a lot of interest and enthusiasm from our industry partners. We had more than 45 utilities and departments of transportation that were involved in the development of the CCAA. And since the agreement was finalized back in April of this year, we've received more than 20 applications from utilities and DOTs to enroll in the agreement. So again, this has been a very key project and initiative for the working group to take on to really, again, provide that operational flexibility and regulatory certainty for one of the species, again, that is a keystone for much of our pollinator work. A related initiative is the development of a pollinator scorecard that really, again, is focused on energy and transportation landscapes and some of the unique considerations that there are on those types of landscapes for pollinator habitat conservation. Now, we fully recognize that there's a lot of scorecards out there, many of which also look at pollinator habitat. But what we were really going for with the development of this tool was to create a common language that can specifically describe habitat on a range of energy and transportation lands. So both rights of way as well as generation sites or other types of facilities. And in doing so, can create a consistent valuation method across energy sectors. So across industry sectors, sorry. So again, we're looking at those commonalities for how roadsides and utilities and railroads are managing their lands, and again, trying to find ways to better understand the quantity and quality of habitat that's out there in the landscape. What was really important was that we create a tool that is flexible and multiple tiered, so we can really meet industry users where they're at. So depending on their level of expertise in identifying habitat resources on the ground, or frankly, the amount of time that they have available to do these assessments, there would be a tool that could help meet that purpose. And this tool of the scorecard also then very intentionally supports the reporting requirements of the Monarch CCAA, as well as can generally support other internal tracking or metric reporting that organizations may be doing internally or externally. The next project that I wanted to highlight is the Geospatial Database, which is a central repository that we've created for tracking habitat and specifically where it's being managed on both, again, energy and transportation landscapes. And so through this database, what was important, one, was to have a place where organizations could report in how much and where they're currently managing habitat on their lands. And in doing so, this helps us first be able to answer a key question about how much habitat is actually out there on the landscape today. But it also then facilitates conservation collaborations and partnerships. It allows, say, a utility to see who else, if it's a DOT or another utility, or railroad, is doing habitat work in their area, and really highlight those opportunities to do collaborative projects together. We've had a couple of those instances occur already. But then also it serves as a very important communications tool. We will soon have live our public dashboard, and that dashboard can help communicate to a variety of stakeholders, including the general public, again, where and how much habitat is on these energy and transportation lands. Now, due to data sensitivity concerns, at least for the public dashboard, this data is aggregated to the county level. But even so, I think that still provides a good indicator of, again, the hot spots, so to speak, of where this work is being done. Through the database, we also hope to engage a variety of state and federal resource agencies as we're continuing these conversations about at-risk pollinator species and where and how we can best support them. So through that, we may be able to inform future listing decisions or other conservation strategies. The last effort that I wanted to highlight as part of the Rights Way Working Group is a relatively new project that we are actually just kicking off. We received a notice just a couple weeks ago from the Department of Energy that this project was selected for funding. So we're very excited to jump into this effort with Argonne, who will also be presenting tonight, and a number of other partners to really research the scalability and the configuration of pollinator plantings at large-scale solar facilities. And we're considering large-scale to be those facilities that are 10 megawatts or larger. And certainly recognizing that there's been a lot of work done to date to demonstrate how well pollinator habitat can be co-located with solar. So there's a number of benefits that have been recognized. But many of those demonstration projects or case studies have been done on much smaller facilities. So we're really interested in looking at how we can scale up those practices and that learning to the much larger utility scale facilities. We'll be looking at the ecological effects, so both to pollinator insects as well as birds and bats, the economic considerations, the costs and benefits of installing and managing these pollinator plantings over time, as well as looking at potential performance impacts of the panels themselves, and if there's efficiency gains that can be realized by having these pollinator plantings at the solar facilities. In addition, we'll also be creating a comprehensive set of guidelines and tools that we really hope will inform the work of utility scale solar developers, energy companies, and policymakers. So very lastly, again, I wanted to highlight where you can go to get more information. So we have this website for the Rights of Way as Habitat Working Group. Also on the website, we have taken a, a good amount of effort to compile what we call our resources library, which has a variety of resources about managing pollinator habitat on energy and transportation lands, everything from best management practices, case studies, tools. All of our webinars are there, and we continue to populate this library with additional tools as they become available. So encourage you to check out the website. We also have number of other resources and online discussion board, those sorts of things as well. So it's a great place to go to get more information. With that, I look forward to our discussion this evening and answering any questions you have. Thank you.